All right, after a hiatus, we are back again with another episode of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Our esteemed host, Mike, is still keeping track of things in his own world as far as his floor and getting his home back together. Hopefully, that'll be done someplace soon because I'm going to be crashing on that floor in about a month to go watch the USA Scotland rugby game up in DC. But I'm going to be manning the I guess I'll be man of the ship tonight. I'll be keeping the car somewhat moving as best as I can. And we are just going to have a pretty free flowing show where we're going to discuss various topics around European football. We are not going to be doing too much with the upcoming international tournaments. We're going to have preview shows on both of those next week. And if everything works out with the timing with everybody, we'll try to do two shows with that. Let's do one for Copa America. Let's do one for the Euro. And to keep those separate. Hopefully, we can keep those shows a bit shorter. Maybe do a couple, maybe do two in a week, just to kind of keep it going. But we'll talk about that at another time. But hopefully we're gonna have a big show this week as far as number of guys coming on. So right now I am joined by Coach G, who's made a long-awaited return. How you doing, G?
I'm doing all right, and it's actually kind of my game plan for the entire Arsenal season. So I'm very, very superstitious. I don't know if you know, but in my classroom, I have like a little a sign that I change every week: Arsenal versus whoever. First game we won, I didn't really change it. So I'm like, well, I had to do some school stuff. I wasn't on the podcast. We were winning. I'm like, you know what? I might take off the entire year of being out here. So don't get me wrong, I miss it. I'm glad to be back and stuff like that. So it's good to see that very familiar faces are right across the screen or wherever you guys are located in the world right now. So yeah, I'm glad to be back, man. The tough soccer years, tough teaching year and all that stuff. So, but some good news is maybe in about month and a half, I might be actually a street away from living on French Quarter. So Bourbon Street might be in my backyard. I might be moving to French Quarter here soon. So I'm trying to get that really the New Orleans feel before if I ever leave out of here. So that's going to be an interesting little move coming soon.
Don't be surprised when you have a few guys knocking on your door.
That's also another reason why
I have an eyebrow shaved off.
Energy. I love it. So yeah, man, doors are always gonna be open for y'all.
Excellent. All right, and then we're also joined by, well, we have a long list of titles for this particular individual. We have Bayern / Germany / Peru / USA, Rob, joining us today. How you doing, Rob?
Fantastic. I'm ready to put the club season behind me. It's time for internationals to start. I'm pumped. The players get a little rest. We get a little rest. And time for the magic of summer to begin.
Yes, Rob is feeling that unfamiliar position of not being in first place at the end of a season, but hopefully he will get the much needed therapy he needs this summer and be able to recover and see if Bayern can go on another 11-year championship run. But all right, and we are also joined right now by our resident academic, Professor Matt. How are we doing today?
We're doing well, Seth. We're doing well. And spring semester wrapped up, only teaching one summer class, one night per week.
That's nice.
And sort of going back to what Rob was saying, I'd love summer international tournament football. I think that's what, as good as a World Cup as we had 2 years ago, it being, Thanksgiving to essentially Christmas, and being at the business end of, the semester, that sucked. I next Sunday, all I plan on doing is I think I'll watch the Poland match from the crib, 9 a.m. That's a little early, but from 12 to about 6, I'm going to be in front of a bar, just watching that. And I've missed that. I've between COVID and an unusual World Cup, I missed that.
Listen, Matt, you're discussing a situation that actually was the spawning of this podcast all of 6 years ago, whereas we were enjoying the summer months as educators when we don't have much to do during the day, and it was fantastic. And I was watching the 2018 World Cup just sitting in the bar every day, and that is where I met Mike, who was sitting right next to me at a random pub. And lo and behold, 6 years later, we're still doing this show. So yes, I am envious of you, and I will actually be taking my chances to spend as much time at the pub this summer as possible, because there's nothing better than sitting there and watching international football and talking to whoever is from that country that happens to be sitting
Yeah.
next to you, who has to be playing on the screen. That's such a good experience, such a good experience. So, well, considering, we're wrapping up the club season, let's go ahead and wrap up with the biggest game of the year. At least from a Euro perspective, we had the Champions League final where Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid met at Wembley Stadium. And that was a week after we had the very exciting end of the FA Cup with Manchester United beating Manchester City. I can say that that was probably the first time in a long time that I was vehemently, excitedly pulling for Manchester United. But we had a very, 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 I would say, carbon copy Champions League final, if you all would agree with me there. But because one of the finalists was a German team, Rob, I want to go ahead and start with you. What was your thoughts on the game, and where do you think things started to go a little awry for go a little awry for for Dortmund? I'm sorry.
Okay. This was Dortmund's game. They were doing so well, unexpectedly well. Kobold, their keeper, kept them in the game for a while. And this is one of those games where if you don't draw blood on a powerhouse like Madrid, they will find a way to win it. Bayern learned its lesson in the semifinals, and Dortmund learned it here in the final. They had plenty of chances. This game, they had nothing to lose. They were playing free. They had their players, and they were causing havoc because Real Madrid, if it's not Champions League, they're very beatable. They had such ballers up top. Their midfield, they have Toni Kroos, and it's really about it. But Toni Kroos is so good; he can like count for two people, and even at his quote unquote advanced age for footballer. Never really cared for their center backs, and so I thought they were susceptible here. But Marco Royce comes in, and then they just a bad back pass through the middle. Real takes the ball and scores, and then as soon as that ball's in, the game's over because now the momentum totally shifted. Dortmund does not have the I don't want to say stamina, but doesn't have the history to overcome such a giant. Putting their feet on their neck. It just was. This game was lost. Like Dortmund is not good enough team to come back from such a thing to really turn the tide back, and it bit them. And it stinks because I think Dortmund played very well most of the game, and then they just took their eye off the ball for 1 second, and then Vinny just made a pay. Um, and Dortmund did so well in Champions League. I think they got really fortunate in getting PSG in the semis.
Because
But
PSG is never going to win Champions League.
no, they couldn't look. They were on peak Mbappe and peak Neymar, and they still couldn't win it. During the COVID year, 2020. Dortmund, like they resorted to the team that were in the Bundesliga, which is they shrivel up and they give up. And it's sad because Marco Reus, I think, had a fantastic career at Dortmund. Also a couple of years at Gladbach. This team will be dismantled somewhat. Royce is gone. Holmes is gone. Emery Chan or Emery Kant will be gone. Even though he was captain, I think he won't do. He will. They will find a replacement for him. And yeah, I mean, they just they'll find it really difficult to come back, and that's probably the hardest part. The hardest part is this Dortmund team had a chance to make history, and a lot of teams when you make a final, they go, you know what, this team is good enough to like come back potentially. Dortmund have to get everything right to come back, and get very lucky. They have to hit on everybody who comes through as a new signing or even loan players. And once again, Terzic, he's a vibes coach, and Champions League is full of vibes. You have to get really lucky on injuries. You have to just have extra motivation. But on tactics, Eden Terzic is not your manager. And if they lost in the semis, I think he would have been gone because they were not great in Bundesliga at all whatsoever. Um, but now you have to bring him back. And the problem is now you have to bring him back, but you're not going to get a great Bundesliga season out of him. So I feel Dortmund's in this weird spot. They're like, you have to bring him back because he got you to the final, but you really don't want him back because you really value the Bundesliga as a league, and he's not going to get you there. I mean, they struggle like to 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 remain in Champions League for a bit, and part of it is because Leipzig were kind of blah, and Leipzig won't be blah again. Uh, so so yeah, and Madrid once again, everybody knows they're just so good. This is their competition, and it's also thank goodness that UEFA has changed the competition a little bit because now maybe Real won't win it. Maybe because they switched up the version of the competition, maybe Real won't be as dominant, but they just probably will anyways. They love that theme song. They love the hymn. They love seeing that black and white checkered ball, and they know they're going to win the game, and that's who they are.
Yeah, I thought it was unfortunate for Dortmund because I agree. I thought that they actually played a really good game and had their chances to win. But yeah, you saw Real Madrid walking off at halftime, and it's almost like they were going, "Whew, okay, we got through that at 0-0. We know what we got to do now, and we're going to win this game." So let's let somebody else chime in. Coach G, why don't you go ahead and jump in with your perspectives on the final and what you noticed, if any.
It was your stereotypical final. Like, what do we expect? We have a team that should not be there, Borussia Dortmund. They got lucky. That's how these tournaments work out sometimes. You just the luck of the draw, and you have a good game plan. And yeah, they gave it their all gung ho, but at the end of the game, we all knew it was Real Madrid. It's their tournament, like Rob said. If they're not winning, La Liga, then they're winning the champions, and that's all they do. That's all they care about, and they make their trillions of dollars, and that's why they get Mbappe. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see other teams have more competition going to extra time. But when you have these kind of a 1A, 1C team, you're going to have that. Borussia Dortmund didn't really have the greatest year in their own league. I think they're sixth, seventh, Rob, something like that. So they put all their chips into the Champions League, and yeah, they're getting a crap ton of money. But like Rob said, a lot of teams are retiring. A lot of the players are retiring right now, so they need that money to kind of rebuild. So I think they're kind of last hurrah. Good job, guys, but it was never your game. It was never your game to win. So better luck next 5 years when you guys kind of rebuild kind of thing. But as of right now, it's Real Madrid's tournament. They're going to be the next for next year and the following year because of Mbappe and stuff like that. So just watch out for Real.
Yeah, it's there till somebody beats him, absolutely. But something I think most surprising thing for me I noticed was Matt. I'm gonna have you, Professor Matt, have you jump in on this. Is I didn't realize Emre Can was only 30. I thought he was like 36. I couldn't believe it. But Professor Matt, why don't you jump in, and then I will introduce a return of one of our earlier regulars because I can't wait to get him back on the screen because it's been too long. But Professor Matt, go ahead and jump in and let us know your thoughts on the game and what you saw.
Was the Emre Can set up to bait me, the Liverpool fan? Because if I could describe that final, it was PTSD. I've seen this. I've been there before, particularly 2 years ago, where we, as indeed Dortmund, thoroughly outplayed them in the first half. But at halftime, and I think you said something in the group chat, and I immediately was like 100%. As soon as it ended 0-0 at halftime, I was like, Dortmund are screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't finish your dinner against this team, this manager in this tournament, you are going to pay. And indeed they did. Rob brought up, them putting on Royce when they did. By and large, Terisic's tactics or lack thereof, I think we're okay. But I thought that was a weird switch because as soon as Royce came on, that's when the entire, dimension of the match changed. And just in terms of Real Madrid, look, we know how dominant they are. They're getting arguably the best player in the world, so expect this to continue. Vinicius Jr., the front runner for the Ballon d'Or at the moment. I think
I think it's Jude. I think you got to go with Jude Bellingham. We'll see what happens this summer, but I mean, I think it's actually Jude Bellingham. I really do. I mean, I'd be shocked if he's not at least top three.
I think we'll see. We'll have to see what England does in the Euros and what he does. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I was having seen. I'll put it this way. We'll see what happens during the summer. And I know we'll talk about this more next week. But I mean, England is as deep as they've ever been, So we'll see what happens there. But we have a return. I'm stumbling on my speech because I can't believe this person has actually decided to come back and grace us with his presence. We have my birthday brother, and we have the return of course, they led this team to relegation, but we have the return of half of Schalke's coaching staff. Coach Matt is back on the pod. Everybody, please welcome Coach Matt. And Coach Matt, please jump in and let us know your feelings of the Champions League final. And then I'm going to let you just go ahead and have a minute to talk about the FA Cup final as well. So, Coach Matt, welcome back. The mic is yours. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you, man. Happy to be back. I'm excited. I missed you guys. Obviously, I'm still in the chat all the time, but I've missed y'all. And just being on here. Yeah, no, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, at the end of the day, like, Dortmund blew it. I mean, we were all talking about it. I'm happy. Like, I have other chats that I'm in, and people weren't really like talking about it as much. And I feel like everyone was on it, just recognizing like as soon as Dortmund missed like 3 of those golden chances, we were all just like, uh-oh, like that's not good. I was a little shocked that I think Madrid was shocked. I think that they thought Dortmund was going to sit in, just kind of play a Jose, park the bus style and hope for something on the break, not really be as active as they were breaking out. But as one of my friends has said, he's like, I'm convinced that Madrid are running an experiment on how badly they can be outplayed and then still win, because it is unbelievable. Like, we not just this year, it's the last couple years, especially without Ronaldo being there. It's just been like, how do they keep doing it? But they find a way, and it's kind of interesting to see. And now they will have that Mbappe player. I do think Vinny's the favorite right now to win the Ballon d'Or. I just also think of like kind of the optics side of it as well, with everything he's going through with the racism and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I could just see
his goal scoring though isn't as impressive as I think one would believe. That's probably why I'm probably discounting Vinny a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't be. But
I think it's just his big game like essence. And also, I mean, again, we always say like, oh, what are the parameters for the award? I mean, I think if Brazil somehow, pull a Copa America out of their ass, like, then yeah, absolutely, then he's gonna win it. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Again, you're right though, Stead. If England somehow lift the Euro, then like Jude is probably a front runner. At least the English press will think so.
Yeah.
But speaking of England, we've got a transition. What a great transition by me, gotta say. FA Cup, baby. I mean, talk about a team. I mean, just no one gave them hope. Me and Mike love to just be pessimists. And, I think some of it is like, a lot of tongue in cheek. But this was one of the first games ever going in where I wasn't even having like hopes up and like kind of nerves as it started, just because I was like, well, we should lose, like, just based on everything, all the negative stuff that had been going on with Ten Hag and where the team was. And now then there's been some kind of even negative pushback with Ineos and some of the stuff they're doing. And it's funny now because it's kind of like these guys pulled a cloak over our eyes, and all of a sudden, things aren't that bad and we're not in crisis mode. And, if all of our players are healthy, then like this team can suddenly make a run for it. It's just like all of the fact that we finished like in 8th place has gone out the window by winning a trophy. And it's fantastic. I gotta just give a shout out to the 2 kids, Garnacho and Kobe Mino.
Absolutely.
Kobe is unbelievable, man. Like, anyone who just watches and knows the game and coaches it, I know Garnacho has like the flashy stuff. He has probably the Puskas winner this year with that overhead kick. But I think that Kobe Mainu is going to be Cobby and Jude in that, and Rice in that midfield is unbelievable. Like, at least
Absolutely.
even just the 2 years going down, and that second goal was absolutely gorgeous. The no look pass from Bruno. Even before that, there's like this double touch he does. It goes to Cobby. Cobby gives it to Rashford, who plays this amazing ball to Garnacho, and then no look pass, tap in. It was beautiful. It's something that, as one of the announcers said, it's something that you would expect City to have scored, and somehow we did it. And then, of course, we just had to make it nervy. Onana had to let a little squeaker in, and just make us have super squeaky bum time. And then, but we saw it out, and it's phenomenal. And I'm just happy now going into the offseason.
I was actually thoroughly impressed with the way Manchester United played. I watched that game saying like this is the team that I'm sure Man U fans knew was there, and they just couldn't figure out how to put it together. But I know a lot of people are saying this. I thought Ten Hag, and Pep admitted it, he got outcoached that game. He did. But even with all the turmoil that happened with Manchester United, and of course we have to highlight the fact that the player that he cast off started in the Champions League final this year, with Jadon Sancho. But does he keep his job? I mean, personally, I think they would be very, very idiotic to let him go right now, considering unless they have somebody in the works. Because I know a lot of people are seeing similarities with Arsenal. A lot of similarities with what Arsenal was going with a few years ago, and we had lots of Arsenal fans who, of course, I think are the ones who can't see further than 2 weeks ahead of them and 2 weeks behind them, saying fire the coach. And look at what Arsenal has been able to turn into as somewhat of a contender now, and not just in the domestic leagues, but also, they're someone to contend with in Europe. Does he keep his job, and do you think he should keep his job?
I think it's right now it's 50-50 amongst the fans. But I am actually very ETH in, like very much so. You can just tell, like, if the team was not in for him, we would not have shown up for that cup final. Like, we completely altered the way we played. We completely, like, it was totally, and I understand the criticism. It's like, well, where was that, 3 months ago? Like, why didn't he change his style of play? And it's like, that's a valid criticism. But at the same time, it's like, if the players weren't responding to him, if there were issues like we'd seen in the past with other coaches when they started to have a dip, where the, player leaks start coming out, and we've seen it with Ole, who was like one of the most beloved people in the club, and even he, the players turned on him. It's clear that the players are not turning on Ten Hag, and they're playing for him. And I mean, he might have some issues with Casemiro moving forward, but he might probably leave too. I think he should stay in, and I think he has one more year left on his deal. It, like you said, Stead, it would be idiotic to let him go. Like, if he doesn't work out in the next couple months, and Ineos have already said, like, this is going to be a 3-year rebuilding project again. It's like, if it doesn't work in 3 months, it's like, are you really set back that far? And he already had 1 year in his deal. Like, you're not going to be paying out for the next 3 years. So, like, why wouldn't you just keep him, see how it works? Like, maybe we don't, have to start 34 different back 4 pairs and see how that goes. Another crucial player that played in that final was Lisandro Martinez.
And Varane's probably out of there too, right?
Varane's gone. Yeah, we let him go. But but again, we'll see what it's like. I would keep him. It's going to be interesting. I do get also, like, I mean, Stead and everyone here, like, anytime you come in to a company and they get new leadership, they always want their guys at the top. So I understand why they probably want to make a switch from that perspective, but from a team perspective, just keep them, man. Keep 'em.
I have to concur. Does anybody else want to jump in on that, on the FA Cup final? I'm sure there's some.
Well, yeah, I saw a couple of stats from Coach, and all his stats were like the top #1 coach, #1, all the victories. Like, he's got so many different things compared to the other previous coaches, and even a legendary Fergie coach. Some of the stats, it blew my mind after reading that. Go, with all these great numbers, why kind of the shit season they're having? So he's like, behind the scenes, he's doing great stuff, but just the team is just not gelling. So maybe with this FA Cup, it might go to next year kind of thing, and hopefully with a couple good signings. You never know with Man U. They're up and down kind of thing, kind of yo-yo, last couple of years, but they're always top 7 at least. Give them that. At least they're not at Chelsea going, deep in that kind of crap. So, but yeah,
even from my 6, which is shocking. I couldn't believe that. But go
This
ahead.
year, but not last year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like Man U is always that team that you can never really count them out. They have that worldwide fame name that you just never know who's going to show up. Yeah, you can thank Fergie for all that stuff too. But like you just know they're always going to be in the game. So for them to have a down season like this, but the stats are in their favor. So watch out for them for next year is what I would say.
Yeah, I have to agree because you look at Manchester United, they gave up 58 goals, but Manchester United, Villa gave up 61, Spurs gave up 61, Chelsea gave up 63, Newcastle gave up 62. They all finished above Manchester United. So you figure if Manchester United's able to just score 8 to 10 more goals, they're finishing fifth. They're finishing. I mean, they're finishing fifth. I firmly believe it because look, we'll talk about this later, but I thought the real issue was just Crystal Palace scored the same number of goals as Manchester United. So I think if you're able to just get the ball in the back of the net a few more times, then I think you're looking at a way, way, way different season. I'm not talking about 10 goals, maybe even 4 goals could have really changed Manchester United's. And my point in saying this is I think that means that they're not as far off as it would appear, and especially when you have a whole slew of people who've been watching Premier League since the late 90s, like me, who love nothing more than to watch Manchester United lose. It's a great, great, great feeling. But once you're over your fandom and you start thinking about it logically, look at it and go, no, there's actually a whole lot going on there. And this team I think this team is a lot closer than we think. Why don't we just transition here now? Professor Matt, go ahead.
Another point too on Ten Hag's future, the managerial crop or the pool that they're looking at if they were to fire him went from just a couple months ago looking really good to being sheer ass. Like Xabi staying put, Nagelsmann staying put. Who do you want?
Who you gonna get?
Chelsea Mike's boy, Timmy Tuchel? Nah.
No, you want Poch?
But you want Poch? It makes sense, like Coach Matt said, to keep him 1 year, see how it goes. And you know what? If they struggle again next year, he's had a contract anyway. You don't have to, do a big payout.
And you've qualified, but that FA Cup when you qualified for Europa League. I mean, you were out of Europe. You were
Can
out,
I just say, like, that's actually the best part is that like Chelsea snuck up, all their freaking smug fans are just like, oh, we beat you, and then just to knock them down to conference. Oh, it's just like it's just delicious. It's so
Hey,
good.
Chelsea Mike,
I think about the FA
it's so
Cup
funny
ever.
because I actually enjoyed that too. I did. I was like, well, that was kind of nice to see too. The fact that both teams I don't like did something bad to each other makes me smile a little bit. But why don't we go ahead, G? Go ahead, and then we're going to transition to just general Premier League. But
I'm a hater on this one guy, and I think he actually lost a lot of points for Man U. Onana. I do not like him as a goalie. I think he's erratic. I think how he plays is sloppy. He jumps when he shouldn't be jumping. He's just so awkward in goal sometimes. I actually thought he's probably lost at least 5 or 6 points all season because of dumb things. That's just me, just on the outside now.
Yeah.
Mike and even Coach Matt, they're like, oh no, it might be 15 points, but whatever it is, he's losing points. And as that position, you cannot lose points for your team.
Yeah.
So I said, not a fan of him. And I saw a thing on Facebook that I actually posted about 3 years ago, like, Arsenal's interested in Onana. I'm like, oh shit, thank God we did not get him. I'm glad that someone else got him. Looking back at it, it was not good for us as an Arsenal fan, but I just don't think he's that good of a goalie.
He reminds me of Wojciech Szczesny, who would make some absolutely phenomenal saves, and then the ball hit him in the back of the head and go in the goal. So I get it. Professor Matt, go ahead.
He's African Simon Mignolet.
Yeah.
Pull off 2 or 3 spectacular saves, but there's a brain fart.
Absolutely.
Brain fart.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we go ahead and transition into just wrap this Premier League season, because this was probably, I think this was a better season that we've had recently, as far as at least there was a title race up until the last couple of weeks of the season. And even though you had 2 teams that could have that had a shot, and then you had 1 team that had a shot, even though I think in the back of our minds we all knew, like, is West Ham really going to beat City? Probably not. But it was a fun season to watch. I think I didn't like seeing the 3 teams who got promoted got relegated. Hopefully, one of them can stay, but that happens. And Chelsea, Mike, I'm sure you'll fill us in a bit more about that. But I would like us to go around though and just say, what was your biggest surprise this year, and what was your biggest disappointment this year? So I actually would like to start with our correspondent who just came on. Let's welcome him in. We got Chelsea Mike here. So his team, who we had lambasted as being in the bottom half of the league all year, ended up finishing 6th, which was quite surprising. But I say still got knocked to the conference league thanks to thanks to Coach Matt's squad. So, but Chelsea Mike, welcome to the show, and go ahead and give us kind of like your wrap up of the season and what was your biggest surprise and what was your biggest kind of, I don't want to say disappointment, I would say just kind of like not disappointment for you maybe so much, but just a disappointment for maybe a specific team.
No, I mean, Coach Matt over there, he's laughing with great joy. But one of my favorite things on earth is watching Manchester United lose on Thursday. I mean, it's tradition at this point. I mean, they're just so good at it. They might as well have the opportunity. So, I'm happy because I think that Chelsea have a very good shot of winning the conference. So I think I began the season.
Y'all don't forget though, Olympiacos won it this year. So those teams from that part of the world seem to be tough at this time of year.
Oh, and it's like their Super Bowl, I mean,
exactly. I know
you're going to get the best out of
so much.
any conference league opponent. Looking forward to great games in Lithuania next year.
Yeah.
But I said starting out the season, what do I think a good realistic outcome is for this side? And go back and watch, like and subscribe to the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Watch us over and over again, like I do. But I said that a Europa League spot was a good outcome for this team. And though they're not going to be in the Europa League, they did get a Europa League spot. So I think that the season as a whole was just a bit above par. What were the big surprises? The big surprise, Cole Palmer. I mean, coming over from Manchester City, absolutely, just emerging as a superstar. This guy's got the potential. He's young. He's got the potential to be a great Chelsea player for a very long time. And he was essentially given away by Manchester City to us. It was a deadline deal, and it was almost like a throw-in. So yeah, I have to say, emergence of Cole Palmer. On the downside, another year, another Chelsea manager. It really kind of seemed like stuff was coming together under Pochettino at the end of the season, and yet, I guess there was someone in the boardroom who didn't really like what he was doing. I'm a little worried because I think that Chelsea, I've been saying on the show for years that what Chelsea need are consistency in their managers. I think this time, though, slightly differently, they have consistency in the front office. So there's at least a front office vision that will guide them. I don't know about Maresca. We're gonna have to wait and see. Guys, we've done this before. We've pulled a guy out of the championship. His name happened to be Frank Lampard, so he was a little bit famous around our parts. But that didn't go great. So I'm a little worried about about the lack of consistent vision and if Maresca's up to the task. So all in all, I would sum it up as slightly above average season. I think there's a goal here. We hit Europe now, next year Champions League, and then contending for the league title. If that's the progress, then we're on course.
Professor Matt, go ahead.
In terms of surprise player, I concur with Chelsea Mike, Cole Palmer. I think we mentioned him. It was the first week of the season or right after the Charity Shield, and it was like, they really going to roll with this Cole Palmer guy, and then Chelsea got him, and it was like, I guess they're not, and scores all those goals. Surprise team, Crystal Palace. they looked they looked done and dusted at Christmas, and you change the manager, some guys get healthy, and all of a sudden they look like a team. They looked like the team I thought they were building under your boy Stead. Uh, in terms of disappointments, part of me almost wants to say Man United, but yet at the same time they won something, so I can't. Uh, how about Burnley? Not Burnley. Yeah, Burnley. Because I thought of the teams that were going to come up, they
They'd be
would
the one to
stay up,
Yeah.
and I got to be honest, I was shocked how bad they were, and equally shocked that their manager is now Byron Rob's manager. Uh, and kind of collectively, and I know there's context, injuries, key signing being banned for a year because of gambling. Eddie Howe in Newcastle. I know, Stead, you're a big Eddie Howe fan. I thought they were going to fall off a little bit, but
That was my
they,
disappointment. I'll
they
talk about them
look
too. Yeah, I agree.
terrible at
Mhm.
times this season.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean that's my list.
I concur. I'm going to touch on that too. Coach Matt, go ahead. You're next.
My biggest disappointment, I mean, aside from our season, obviously, I honestly Arsenal not winning the title. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's like,
Hold on.
guys,
Whoa.
well, come on, you have to think about who you were in between, okay? Like literally evil versus eviler, like, and it's just like, really, guys, like, God, just I understand it's City, and maybe, God willing, the 115 charges will get prosecuted, but God, like I was really pulling for you guys. And it's also too, I mean, you mentioned Stead, like there are parallels. You see, you can't ignore like the whole Arteta thing and how he was building it and his league finishes, and then they stuck with him. And hey, look, it's almost like if you stick with someone and they can build something, the team can actually get good. And so I think that's also part of it too. It's like I like that Arteta is being successful and with Arsenal, and I think also too people kind of have started to forget, not Arsenal fans, but I think people are starting to forget how bad Arsenal were.
Mhm.
And I think there is going to come a point where like if they don't win it next year, like I wonder what attitudes are going to be like, like, oh, can Arteta not win it, or what the
Mhm.
deal is, or these players are just going to choke, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and just the biggest surprise and I guess positive, Aston Villa, like just winning, like actually pulling through. I mean, that's pretty
Mhm.
awesome. And Mr. Good Ebening, just doing everything he can to
Yeah,
just
man.
keep them together. That was just awesome. Yeah, that's it. And then also, not Premier League related, but the best thing of the season was United taking Europa League from Chelsea. So
No,
that's it.
while I am very happy for good evening, Unai Emery. I am happy for him. I'm sorry. I know he's your boy. I can't stand Amy Martinez. I just can't stand him. I know you think he's a good goalie. He is a good goalie, but I'm sorry. I can't stand that guy. But G, go ahead, bud. You're next.
I like him better than Leno. That's all I'm going to say. Martinez is out there. But I think for Arsenal, we got exactly what we got. Like last year, we lost it, what, 5 games? We had 5 games until the very end. We lost against Man City, and we just kind of after that.
Yeah.
This year, we kept up. So that's an improvement from last year. We went to the very last game this year compared to last year. So it's a victory. I get it. Just with you, Matt. They should have won it this year. It's not our time yet. We had to go through all the lumps. We had to go through not the Man U drop and come up, the Arsenal drop to come back up to kind of realize who we are. We are such an Arteta's dream right now. And for us to go now deeper into the Champions League, and now we go deeper into the Premier, next year is going to be our year. I was going to throw that out there. My disappointment this year would be Brighton. Brighton had all that signing money. They're making all that crap, and they went to what, 11th or 12th, something like that this year. I think last year they were 7th or something like that. I thought they would actually gotten even better. So
they got worse as the season went on too.
What's that?
I said they got worse as the season went on too.
Yeah. So I don't know if the injuries kind of like. I know you're going to talk about Newcastle. That was my first point, my first pick. But I think injuries is just dismantle that team. I don't know if the owners put more money into like rebuild the stadium or whatever, but I thought Brighton would have even a better year this year. So that was kind of my disappointment. My kind of surprise, I would say Aston Villa as well. Going to fourth place, never saw that coming. Maybe six, maybe. Well, no, because Chelsea had a shit year. Man, you had a shit year. Tottenham's always shit. So yeah, I can see them now kind of rising up. So it kind of makes sense this year. So and all in all, you know, it's typical sports. You really don't know until what you get until the very end and stuff like that. So but it's going to be one of those things that next year is going to be Arsenal. We're going to see some of these teams kind of bubble up, and obviously they're going to fall. Chelsea next year, I think you guys will be a little bit better. But I think Man U's also going to be better and everything else. Crystal Palace, sorry, buddy, not to bust your bubble. Mid-level team. If you get to plus seventh, it's a victory for you guys, but you're always kind of right there. So just keep doing what you guys are doing. You guys are making that money every year. It's all that really matters for Crystal Palace because you're just happy to be a part of the conversation. So that kind of works out for y'all.
Yeah, I actually see Crystal Palace finishing 8th next year. I actually think they have a good shot. I mean, look, Rob, you're going to have them in Germany. You might be playing against some team in the Conference League, so you never know. I'd say my biggest I don't want to say I'll start with my disappointment. My disappointment was actually, it was Professor Matt, you spoke about this. It was Newcastle. I was expecting top 4 from Newcastle. Primarily because not just from the money that they spent, but I thought they actually were playing well for large portions of this year. I know they had a couple of really big wins, but to have a 23 positive goal differential and finish 7th, that's not all's not well when something like that happens. I don't want to put too much of this on Eddie Howe, but he has to take a good amount of responsibility for this. I think, yes, they did have some injuries there and they were struggling there, but you had a 21 goal scorer as well. So, and yes, he had some PKs. I don't really like to count PKs. I feel like PKs are overrated in the stat sheet, but I felt like Newcastle should have done a bit better. I was expecting them to finish better than Spurs and Villa. I'll put it that way. My surprise this year is somebody that Professor Matt, you and I spoke about a couple of shows ago, is that boy from West Ham, Mohamed Kudus. Watch out for him. Watch out for him. I have a feeling that this kid is going to be the next guy that's going to be brought to a bigger club, and he'll start by coming off the bench, and he'll make some serious noise, and then I could see him being a starter for a Big 7 club in England. West Ham was, they got him for now, but he's young, 23, but his skill with the ball at his feet. He scored 14 goals in all competitions this year as well. He makes really good passes. He is quick. He is got a strong low center of gravity. I feel like that could be somebody that is going to make some noise in the Premier League. Now, of course, he could be playing for Ajax or Feyenoord in a couple of years, but I feel like this is somebody special.
It's weird. He might be playing for Feyenoord's next manager next year because word on the street is, as Coach Matt put it, evil is all in. He would be the #1 Salah replacement, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it.
Yeah. I like the kid a lot. I think he's good. So I think for that's a good Premier League wrap up. Premier League was Premier League this year. It's still the best league in the world, and I'm gonna be excited to see what shakes out next year. Of course, I say that as we transition, because we are gonna let Brian Rob jump back in and just give us a recap of the Bundesliga and what has been I thought it was for those of us who don't like some parody, it was good to see a new champion crowned. But I think there was a lot of us too that felt like, I don't know. I know he played for Spurs, but I'm not a hater, and I actually wouldn't mind if Harry Kane was able to get a trophy. Hopefully, he'll get one. But Rob, jump in and give us this year's season because we had the team that finished as you said, 6th, get to the Champions League final. We talked about the return of Leipzig. You also have probably the most shocking managerial change in this offseason with Vincent Kompany taking over Bayern Munich. Talk about a fail up. That's probably the biggest fail up I've ever seen. But Bayern, I'll call you Bayern Rob right now, or Bundesliga Rob. Go ahead and jump in.
This season has been kind of so weird. And I'll transition from the Premier League for a little bit because I actually my biggest disappointment with Burnley.
Oh,
Because
I'm
I
sorry.
thought
Go
because
ahead.
just
Yeah, give
real
yours.
real
I'm
fast,
sorry
real
about that.
fast, real
Yeah, go
real,
ahead.
real fast. Um, I think I thought Burnley with an up and coming manager. They have some famous investors. I thought they would have done much better, at least stayed in Premier League. The very fact that they dropped down, back down, is a disappointment to me. Because I think Vincent Company's coach is on a ride. I think he took a job. Um, wasn't the most flashiest job. He's done the work, right? He did the player coach thing in Belgium. He's moving slowly up the ranks. So and then he took a championship side, brought him up, really good for his credentials, and I think what hurt him was being relegated again, and he filled up. Now transitioning back to the Bundesliga, Bayern were kind of out of options here. They really could have had Hansi Flick, but I think a couple of the older heads wanted Hansi Flick because they wanted to recreate 2020. 2020 was a beautiful year for the Bundesliga and for Bayern, and only for Bayern, by the way, nobody else in the world. So so they want to recreate some of the magic again. And then the biggest obstacles that Hansi Flick had are gone, which is Brazo, Hasan Salihamidzic, and Oliver Kahn. They're gone. It's over for them, right? Um, so, but I think the new higher structure, that hierarchy in the structure, with Max Eber coming from Leipzig, who was formerly at Gladbach, and Stefan Freud, who was formerly at the Red Bull system. They wanted to put their stamp on things. They wanted their own stamp and their own coach. And the higher ups in Romanega and Uli Honda said, fine, you know what, you win. We'll see how you do. And obviously they would be judged based on how Vincent Company does. I always worried about young coaches with a team like Bayern because there's a lot of egos here. There's a lot of personalities, a lot of power struggles. Thomas Muller still runs the show in that locker room. There's a lot of legends always wanted around, and Vincent Company is not part of that. He's a Johnny come lately, right? So how is he going to motivate his peers, sort of, who now have to look up to him as a manager? Vincent Company, if he does things right, he has to really just let the players play, put them in proper structure, put them in the right systems, and let them go. If he tries to overcoach, if he tries to overmotivate, he's going to lose his locker room real quick, and it's going to be a lot of egg on the face. And Bayern won't win 11 in a row. And again, it's going to that's unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean that's
A
ridiculous.
lot
I
of
mean,
people,
it really
this
is.
this sport has grown so much in those 11 years, and those who have seen the Bundesliga from outside or recent times think, oh, this is a league. No, that's unprecedented. This is historic, and it took a near perfect. Like I'm talking, well, you can say they're perfect because they haven't lost, but they drew some games, but a near perfect situation with Leverkusen. No major injuries besides Victor Boniface, and they had Patrick Schick coming back from injury. He was the starting striker last season. So then they got excellent mileage from all their players. All their players really like Florian Wirtz, Jonas Hoffman, Frimpong, Granado. They're all these players excellent. Excellent. Xabi Alonso, hungry manager, fresh ideas. They played hard for him. All that combined along with the crazy power structure, the major injuries that Bayern had to encounter. And that's what happened. And then, just because Bayern didn't win the league doesn't mean they came in second. They came in third.
That's what was probably the more surprising thing was that
They came in third
yeah.
because
And they came in third in the final day, right?
Yeah, they came in third in the final day. Stuttgart, they're building something special over there. They're almost like the lesser version of Leverkusen. They don't have the money, they don't have the star power, but man, all those players are just hungry. They're playing well. For Sebastian Hoeneß, they're sending a couple of them to the Euros. They,
Yeah, I saw that.
the last international call up in friendlies before the Euro roster. They had like 4 or 5 players from Stuttgart. Like that's a testament to how good they are. So that was dumb, and they can hold it together, and they're going to play Champions League, but if they can hold it together and not fall victim to what happened to Union Berlin, where they bought too quickly, ruined the chemistry, and just try to maintain like their worth in Champions League. If they could just keep the ship steady and buy a player or two to shore up the bench, I think they'll do well. They might not make Champions League again, but they'll be Europe and they won't embarrass themselves. Unlike Union Berlin, who got the Champions League last season, played in it this season, bought all these players. They bought Benucci, they brought Brendan Harrison, they brought like all these random players.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin Gosens, and they just ruined all the chemistry. Earl Fisher got sacked because they were just doing awful, and they survived. They barely survived, like the relegation playoff. They ended up in 15th. Bochum, who are Bayern's best friends, ended up in relegation playoff, and they nearly blew it until Dusseldorf, who was one of the better Bundesliga sides, screwed the pooch at home. They lost in penalties.
Yeah.
Like
and that was a pretty hot. They were like 3-3, right?
It was
so it was a good, it was good football.
Bochum lost at home 3-0. Okay, then Dusseldorf were losing at home 3-0. Ended up going to penalties after extra time, and then Bochum pulled it out.
Wow.
And it sucks because Bochum pulled them out, but one of the best players, Kevin Sugar, he's gone. Like he some team bought him. I think Gladbach did. Their best player who held it together. He's the reason that they even survived.
Mm-hmm.
They would have been right above Darmstadt if it wasn't for Kevin Stuger. Now he's going to Gladbach, so he gets a pay raise, very deserved. But Bochum will once again be fighting for survival again. And I feel bad for Cologne too. There's a lot of Cologne fans that I know who are my friends. A lot of Cologne fans in the U.S. as well. And to see them relegated was sad. Story Club.
I watched that game too. Yeah, that was rough.
That was very rough. Very rough. And I feel for them. And then one other fun story. Heidelheim. FC Heidelheim, who came up last season. It came up last season to this year. They're gonna play in the Conference League.
Yeah,
fantastic for them. All because of various economic circumstances with Leverkusen winning the Pokal, and that's insane. Like, so they're gonna play European football in that stadium. Like, they went from the second division to the first division, not to play in European football. I know it's a Conference League, but the Conference League is fun.
I'm sorry. I dumped on the Conference League when they first came out with it. I could not be a bigger fan of the Conference League. I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic to see, a team like Roma, who was very happy to take that cup home. West Ham took that cup home. And, and then you look at this year, Olympiacos winning. That's the first European trophy a Greek team's ever won. So, yeah, the name's kind of weird. I think Chase should probably think of a name for that tournament. But I've become a real fan of that tournament. But speaking of European tournaments, I gotta ask you, Rob, what in the world happened to Leverkusen in the Europa League final? I mean, I'm sitting here thinking that look, this is from 40,000 feet, where it seems like they had the Bundesliga wrapped up so early that they could have easily just, and maybe they didn't want to. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but they could have just put all their eggs in that basket, considering that hey, we've already won the Bundesliga. We can just go ahead and try and go for this unprecedented trophy haul this year. And then they ran into a Nigerian who got a hat trick.
Yeah, sorry, it is. Man, that was tough.
That was shocking. I was surprised.
You ever like been in sports, right? When like teams are going through perfect seasons, you almost like, you know what? You should lose one. because
that was the Patriots Super Bowl, basically.
yeah, you should lose one because you lose one, then you get it out the way.
Yeah.
The pressure mounts.
Yep.
And now, just selfishly, I wish they put all their eggs in that basket, won the Europa League, and then lost to Kaiserslautern, because just for the chaos, you would have had a second division team played in Europa League.
Yeah.
That would have been fantastic. And
Yeah.
look, I mean, it's tough for me to see Leverkusen because win it for a couple reasons. Number one, they're one of the teams who have been grandfathered in from 50+1. The Bayer Pharmaceutical Company owns the team. They consider it a sporting project. They don't invest heavily into it. And so I always tell people, like, you know what? Like, when people want to say, oh, you should get rid of 50+1, like, you should have more competition. We have let's see here. You have 3 teams who are exempt from 50+1. In Leverkusen, who's the other one?
Hoffenheim.
Oh no, Wolfsburg and Hoffenheim.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfsburg is VW.
Volkswagen, yeah.
And their companies don't invest heavily in the club. What makes you think just because a company owns a club that they're going to invest heavily? It's not guaranteed. And it just shows you that, you know what, you could be backed by a company, but you don't need the major bucks to win it. You just have to have good people, good scouting, good players, some luck, and a hungry manager. And that's fantastic. And that's fantastic. Now, can Leverkusen do it again? That's the key. So once again, playing Champions League ball along with the league, along with the domestic cup, different animal, right? Especially the new version of Champions League.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
More games. Right.
Yep.
Does Leverkusen have in the pharmaceutical company? Do they have the appetite to spend some money, shore up the bench, and do you know they're going to sell some players? Frimpong is on a very small release clause. Do they have the appetite to spend some money to shore up the roster to be in all competitions again, and then guarantee yourself that you're not going to get the injury bug? People are not going to scout you and find you out, because now people have a season and change of Xavi Alonso to analyze. So he's not a surprise anymore. And a Bayern Munich who will be hungry, who will spend money. Now, granted, they have a manager who's a little inexperienced, so that's a little bit detriment to them. But this is still Bayern Munich. This is still a team loaded of professionals, world class athletes, who are going to bring in more world class athletes who are hungry to prove to the world that they belong at the top of the table again, holding up the salad dish. So everything has to go right to repeat. Can Leverkusen do it? Yes, they can, but a lot has to go right, and a lot has to go wrong for the contenders like a Bayern and a Leipzig. So look, I know I knock on you guys in the Premier League because y'all sold your soul to the Americans, and this is the best league because it was chaos all throughout the table. You had some clubs who never seen European football were not going to take some of it. You had a giant get whittled down and go all the way to third place. And you have the best fans, you have flares, you have fireworks, you had chaos and relegation, and also you could drink beer in the stands.
Well, we don't have the English disease, so I can see why they can do that. But
yeah,
but
so I love the league, and I enjoy the Premier League as a fan as well, and also because I love Palace. But look, when you say it's the best league in the world, I just had to wave my hands and say, excuse me.
Hey, all you German fans out there, get the show out there, man. You guys got your biggest Bundesliga fan right here on the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Come out and support. Come out and support. But before we move on, we got a report from the second division Bundesliga. We have our Schalke coaches who Schalke wasn't able to get promoted this year. They're still down there. What happened?
Listen, we're no longer associated with them. We had our one season, we got them promoted. All right. We preached from day one. We needed to see more goal scoring. And, we had one guy in double figures this year. All right. Coach, I mean, that's the thing we put forward. They wanted to throw that in the bin, and what happened to them? They threw themselves in the bin. At the end of the
It's
day,
one of those kind of processes. It's the sports. It's up and down. We had a phenomenal year. They gave us a lot of money to come in and turn that place around. We did that, and we kind of took off and see what happened. So now they're going to be calling us back this year again to see if we can work our magic, to see if we can get back up to the top league again. So I had to take off this uniform pretty soon to put my shotgun one back out. It's almost time to go to hit the airplane to go over to start recruiting. So
all right,
we're about to make some turnarounds here, about to make some names, some money. So let's go.
Sounds good. Well, not only am I the producer of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, I'm also going to be your agent. So I'll make sure that you guys get rehired again for the Bundesliga and get you back on Schalke.
Can you get us newer jerseys though?
Yes, we'll get you some.
Our sponsor is a little.
fresh
we didn't start the fire, but.
Questionable sponsorship over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you might be sanctioned by the U.S. government. You keep wearing that.
All right, well,
that's what they sent us.
Yeah, and who is America to say what's wrong with human rights and so forth and so on? So anyway, we'll move on from that.
Best those of us with history degrees, we know that all too well. Now that we're talking about promotions and relegations, so Chelsea Mike, so we had a wrap to the scene. You gave us a quick rundown of who was promoted and who was relegated, but let's talk about the three teams that are going to be either returning to the Premier League again. Does any team appear to be kind of a yo-yo team? And what do you think the fates are for the teams that just went down back to the championship? Chelsea Mike, go ahead, take it away, my brother.
Well, I mean, so Leicester had a phenomenal season. They managed to keep the band together pretty much. So I think them coming.
Are they going to keep Vardy? Is Vardy going to come back? Is he still playing?
I mean, he was.
I hope so.
Couldn't see him not doing it. He'll be playing until he's 50 years old, which he's coming up on. But he's also a guy you don't want to see coming in off the bench in the 78th minute when Leicester need one goal. Yeah, I mean, still. So I think Southampton coming back up. Yeah, so Southampton won the playoff final over Leeds. Adam Armstrong was the hottest player of that tournament, scoring the winning goal. I think they're okay with him. Be interesting. I wonder if James Ward-Prowse has a way to get back on Southampton. If he had like a hinge in his contract, we'll see.
Clause, yeah.
I think they'll be okay, though I don't really think they'll get higher than 15th all season. So I think they're always going to be in the relegation conversation. Ipswich is an interesting thing, doing the double up from League One to the Premier League in 2 years. I think the general philosophy on that for most people is they kind of like a little step, like get close, get experience, and then make that final big step up. But they're the wild card there. I mean, who's to say they couldn't come up and be a success in the Premier League? Just motivated as they were, very self-motivated. I could actually see them finishing dead last in the table, 20th on like 15 points, or be the biggest surprise. Neither would surprise me. We'll see how they work the transfer market and what they're going to do as they come into the league. So I think it's a bumper crop. Probably 2 will go back down. And like really, I think the safe money to stay up and be a good 14th place team would be Leicester. But again, Ipswich is just a wild card.
So what about Burnley, Sheffield? What happens? I mean, Sheffield, they've been bumping around quite a bit the last few years. I mean, are they the new Norwich, or are they going to basically stay down for a while this time?
well, there was nothing really about their performance
It
this
was pretty
season that
bad.
would
It was
impress
pretty
you
bad.
into thinking that they'd be tops in in any league,
Mhm.
right? Um, I actually I don't like Burnley losing their manager. Um, they likewise were not that impressive. But Burnley last time they went down, they came back and they won the league. I could see them kind of doing that, or at least being upper crust, especially if they had kept Vincent Company. But that's a tough blow, and going down with no manager, you need that guidance. Um, I don't I don't see either Luton, Burnley, or Sheffield really be in any danger of relegation unless they decide to sell off and like inhale those parachute payments
Mhm.
and distribute them to shareholders rather than
Mhm.
um, players on the pitch. Um, I think I think all three of them will be okay. Top six contenders. Again, provided there's not any kind of major shakeup.
Mhm. Let me ask you this then. We see the three or the teams promoted from League One. Who is I know it looks like Pompey is coming back up to the championship after really having a bad run after their FA Cup final from a while ago, and we had then of course I believe they did they go into administration. I think they may have even gone into administration. I know they were struggling financially, and then with Derby, who finished second in League One. So let's talk about the guys promoted from League One because you're seeing teams that have played in the Premier League relatively recently, or teams that do have some level of history where us fans over here in the United States are pretty aware of who they are. And the Portsmouth's got a pretty cool little stadium. I haven't been to really any stadiums over in England, but I know if I do get a chance to go to do a stadium tour, that's going to be one of the ones I want to see. But talk about the clubs promoted from League One that are going into the championship this year.
Yeah, so I mean, every year it seems like some team that performed great in League One really is terrible. Um, like Sheffield Wednesday uh, last year in the championship. Um, but I'm actually so you have Derby County, right? Who are the great story. Portsmouth also both coming back from administration. Both well, Portsmouth more than Derby. I mean, Derby put in that one terrible Premier League season. Um, I think Derby kind of has a better shot. I think they're built for it more. Um, they're just they control the ball kind of thing that, you're not playing against your bottom Fleetwoods, Carlisles, whatever anymore. You're playing against teams that were just recently playing in the Premier League. Um, I actually like the run that Oxford went on. Oxford, the playoff champions, got promoted for the first time since 1999. Um, I don't think there's any double ups out of these three. Again, it depends on who they bring in and etc. Um, but Portsmouth won by 5 points, but Derby still had a shot going into the last week. No real dominance there. Um, Oxford probably goes up and down, I think.
Mm.
Um, but it's good to see these teams. And if you're watching a team, you're supporting a team who enters administration, you're falling down the table. It doesn't feel like they're good examples of how sort of classic sort of teams can catch themselves and build themselves back up. But it takes time and it takes suffering, and both those fan bases have been through it. So good for them.
Yeah. Well, on the back of my eye roll, I'll go ahead and talk about the Ryan Reynolds. Oh, I'm sorry. What are they called? Wrexham? Yes. I believe they won promotion. I got a friend who doesn't watch soccer at all, but he keeps sending me updates about this. I'm like, bro, really?
I'm on a podcast with the lower league for it. We're well informed. Thanks, dude.
So they're in League One now. Wow.
Yeah, so
that must bode well for another season of the TV show, right?
well, I mean, certainly another promotion. Spoiler alert, you guys, if you haven't watched it, Wrexham get promoted again.
Go ahead, Coach Matt.
Ruin
Ask
the
him.
ending.
Yeah, I have a question, Mike, because you follow it, and like to be fair, I put it in the comments, audience you cannot see. I have seen it before, and my wife hasn't seen it. So when she came to me unprompted, like, do you want to watch something soccer related? You just take that and you don't tell her that you've already seen it. So I knew, I mean, obviously too, I've been following them and hoping they do well, because I do like their team. They're awesome. And I have a question for you though, Chelsea, because obviously you want to get out of, non-league as quick as possible. And, they were playing with players that had already played at least some, if not a lot, in in League One level. But now that they're kind of there, and they kind of mentioned it in season 2 that they kind of already playing at a League One level. Do you think it's better for them to stay a couple years in League One, or do you think that there's a possibility of them growing kind of too quickly, and it kind of crumbles down like faster than they can, anticipate? Or when you're down that low, you just take any promotion you can get whenever it comes? Like,
So I think Wrexham are a bit of a special case. So first of all, let me just say I don't think they're going to get promoted again. I think, like you said, they've been playing for the last 2 years with League One talent, and now they're in League One.
yeah,
To bounce above League One talent, well, now Ryan's going to have to open the checkbook again. And given there's one scene where they're like, "We lost how much money?" You know, given how much they've already put in, I don't know. I think for the owners organically, if they were Stockport coming up, yes, you'd want to. But I think that their situation is such that they need to keep getting promoted to keep Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's interest in the team and keep that show going so that they keep
I
making.
disagree with you, man. They're all
I
in.
agree with you 1,000%, Chelsea Mike. I agree.
Living it.
Fuck
Who are
them.
feeling it. Are you kidding? They're jumping up and down. They're like, oh my God, they're awesome. Oh shit, we're stuck. Oh my God, awesome. Exactly what we go through. Now they're believing it, and it's in their blood. They're not giving that team up for anything.
I'm not saying they'd give it. I'm not saying they'd give it up. I'm saying they'd lose interest. It's easy to be a fan when you're winning.
yeah.
When you're going up and when everything's going as planned for the TV show. But now, say next year they get relegated and they spend 4 more years in League Two.
Yeah,
I don't think those guys put because first of all, that's boring TV. Second of all, I don't see them really being captivated.
Oh, let them
also
lose a game in January at home against Exeter City, and London Sean is talking mad trash. Then you'll see how much they really love that team.
I really wanted to point out, like, Mike, you brought out, like, I know the episodes that you're talking about with like them, like, how much money did we lose? But like, I don't know if people know this, but like, Ryan Reynolds was like one of the key partners in Mint Mobile, and Mint Mobile was bought by T-Mobile for $1.3 billion.
Oh, that sale went
So
through.
Ryan Reynolds is worth over $400 million. Like, he has a ton of money. So like, this whole thing of like, how much did we lose? It's like, that's nothing. And like, he's 50-50 in it with Rob McElhenney. So it's like, they have the money.
The
Like,
producers, they're gonna twist this story how they want to.
Yeah.
So it may come up as the poor Americans, we can't afford this. You're absolutely right. The guy's freaking loaded. He's loaded. He's loaded.
They have
I agree
so
with you,
much
Chelsea
money.
Mike. We'll see how as interested they stay. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Premier League.
It was minor league baseball, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
let's see. when Welcome to Wrexham becomes Sunderland Till I Die, let's see how many times they're there in the stands jumping up and
Exactly.
down.
And speaking of that, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
No, just real quick on Wrexham. I think it's beneficial for them to hang around League One and maybe even threaten to get promoted. But I really think that they're not really going to go full in again until they finish the stadium renovation. They have a bunch of stadium renovation they have to do. They had the temporary cop stand that's currently there, but they really want to do it nice up and everything. I think once they get that going, I think that's when it's doing really start pouring the money in. I think also the TV show is helping with the sponsorship. Look, they have United Airlines as a sponsor. It's incredible for a League One side, right?
Yeah.
It's a global airline brand. I know they're based in the US, but they fly everywhere around the world, so they're very known. And also they have partners all over the globe. But I think they're gonna do the research, they're gonna find value where they can, they're gonna spend when they have to, but they're not gonna go like Todd Bowley on people. So I think they're gonna I think at this point, if they're competitive, they're the top half of the table, they'll be happy. If they make a deep run in the FA Cup, I think they'll be very happy to solidify themselves a little bit. And then once the stadium is done, ready to go, then they generated some more money, more revenue, and they save some of that EFL cash. I think they'll do really well for themselves.
Also, I think you guys are missing, and it's very subtle. They're making a shit ton of money on their alcohol. If you see it behind the scenes, they are everything. It's their brand alcohol. It's their brand alcohol. They have cases in front of one of their managers for parties and stuff like that. They're going to be making money off of just the Wrexham name, but all their smaller companies like the alcohol, I forgot other things. Don't worry about it. They'll be making less. They'll be making money like you wouldn't believe. It's just, again, they are the spinners of the show, how they want to present it. If you watch like the subtleties of the behind scenes and stuff like that, you'll see what they're making money off of. You'll see it right there, right in your face.
See if they're interested. I don't know.
I don't think it's not. I don't. They're going to stop making money, and then they'll lose interest. I think it's just the winning goes away, the story gets stale.
Mm-hmm.
They could turn around and sell the team for a profit right now.
That's exactly what I think. Yep.
It's not about the money.
Speaking of documentaries, though, okay, I know it came out a little while ago, but I know a couple of years ago I was saying on this show how they needed to do another season of Sunderland Till I Die, and I don't know. I don't know why that particular show spoke to me so much, but I did watch the third season. Did you guys see the third season of the Sunderland Till I Die?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Those of you who saw it, I don't know about you. I was disappointed.
It was like brief.
Yeah.
It was very brief.
It was like 4 episodes that were about a half an hour long each. I was like, really? It just seemed like they were just trying to go, we know people want another season, and we have footage from when we got promoted. Let's just go ahead and throw together an episode. And then it just kind of ended out of nowhere, and there was very little game footage. There were very little fan reactions, and it was I thought it was really, really hastily and poorly done, and I was very disappointed. I will say this though, spoiler alert: if you don't know what happened at the end and you don't want to hear, then plug your ears. But Chelsea, Mike, I'm not gonna lie, that when the fan died, that kind of hit me. That hit me. It hit me in the stomach. I was that made me sad. I don't know. I don't know if that got you, but that got me. I was like, oh wow, I wasn't ready for that. I actually had a creeper.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was that was tearjerker. I mean, they had to do something.
They had because they had to do something.
Because can I say I mean, and pardon me, Sunderland fans, I revel in your success. Keep on going back up to the Premier League, but the show's not as good when they're winning. Like it's like I need the long faces at the end of like, oh well, everything's terrible in Sunderland, and yeah, our football team's the only thing that gets us through, but also they're bad too. So it's just everything bad. You know, people, the downtrodden with joy on their face.
Yeah.
There's nothing fun in that.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a
I got a little
very,
fun
very
fact
fun
for you,
show.
actually.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, G. Go ahead.
Actually, it goes even to the country of Ireland, who I actually watched today. I did not know the Irish head coach is.
Coach Matt?
No. He played for Sunderland and Man United.
John O'Shea.
There you go, John O'Shea. No, Shay's cousin, Kenneth Hall. When I first got into coaching, he coached the varsity team. I was his assistant coach, and he would talk about O'Shea all the time. So I'm like wondering whatever happened to him after the Sutherland days. You just talk about him, and I put on TV today. Go, no shit. Here he is, the country of Ireland's head coach. So it's always kind of cool to have all this stuff kind of spin around, but also, you know, Ireland should be doing a little bit more decent this year in the cup. So hopefully O'Shea brought his little Irish magic with him.
Coach Matt doesn't look too hopeful, but
We're so bad. We're bad.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give everyone give a party shot. Let's see. Byron Rob, Germany, Peru, USA, Rob. I think for the remainder of this summer, we'll go with you. Let's go ahead and start with party shot.
I'm excited for international football. I will be footy traveling for a bunch of stuff. 2 USA games, 2 USA friendlies. Got USA Copa America. I'll see you there, Stead. And I get to see good old Lord and Savior Lionel Messi twice as well. The first time and only time I saw him, he lost to Saudi Arabia. Hope he loses again twice. So I'm pumped. I'm excited for the summer of USA soccer. You got the men's Copa America. We got the men's U23 Olympics. We got the women's Olympics. Pumped and excited. Don't forget Germany, of course, and Peru. But for you American fans out there, sorry, G, there's a lot of football fans around. A lot of football around. I'm pumped for it. I'm excited. And I hope to catch y'all on my travels.
Professor Matt, jump over to you, brother.
Really briefly, if I had to sum up this, with the exception of the EPL, if I had to sum up this club season, it's the unexpected. And obviously, we talked about Leverkusen. We talked a little bit about Atlanta, who, look, they came to Anfield and took us to the cleaners. But this was an ongoing theme in a bunch of leagues this year. Girona, that's kind of the Ukrainian national team in disguise. I don't think anyone thought that they were going to finish top 4 in Spain. I wish London Sean was on the pod. We're going to have Brests in the Champions League next year.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Had never finished higher than 9th in the top division. Got top 4 in France. And shout out to the other Bundesliga, the Bundesliga we do not talk about on this program, the Austrian Bundesliga, because a very similar story happened there. Sturm Graz, which sounds like a Nazi wonder weapon. They're a club. They finally broke the dominance of RB Salzburg. So shout out to Sturm Graz and Liverpool on loan goalkeeper Vladislav Yaros. Real brief. If you guys are interested, I'm going to be doing a standalone, strictly Eastern European Euros preview sometime next week. So that, God willing, should be up before the tournament instead. And me and you will talk off air.
Yes.
I've been recording a series of longer, sort of historically based episodes. At the moment, more or less on teams or facets of the Euros or of the America. They should be filtering out soon. But we think this is going to be an ongoing thing, God willing. But anyway, yeah, looking forward to it.
Coach G, give us your parting shot.
It was a good year.
Chelsea Mike, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, dude, weird and strange year. What are you talking about? Real Madrid won the Champions League, City won the EPL, Arsenal didn't. So it's just like, a normal year. But here's a parting shot for you, right? It's for you, Coach Matt. Did you know actually that um, the Manchester United men and women both won the FA Cup this year? So not just the men, also the women, and they beat Chelsea in getting there. But on the final weekend, when the Chelsea women had the chance to go down, there was one team in their way ready to stop them, and they lost 6-0. Thank you, Manchester United, 5 straight WSL titles right there. It was a great year to watch Chelsea women's football.
And last but not least, I had to let him go last, considering this is his first show back in quite a long time. Coach Matt.
All that stuff aside for about the women's Chelsea women's team, I'll let Mike have that because that's literally the last time they're going to win the league. So that's okay. You celebrate now. Yeah, just like Bayern, Germany. What is that? Mierda, Rob. My family's also, we're gonna go up. We're gonna get to see Messi, and then we're also going to see Bolivia. Super pumped about that. Something that a lot of people don't really know is Copa Libertadores. Bolivar actually won their group, and it's actually pretty big because like Flamengo is in their group. Millonarios, who are in Colombia, and this other team called Palestino. So like literally, I would say 75% of the team for Bolivia going up is in that Bolivar team. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually do in Copa America. I'm hoping they, do a little better than, garbage that they normally do, but hopefully they do well. It's going to be great to see Messi. It's going to be an awesome summer for soccer. And yeah, it's great. Looking forward to being in the Europa League this year and not the Conference League or, whatever, other people have to
Back in Europe. Thank you, Coach Bolivia, Matt. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for coming on. I want to give a special update that next week we'll be beginning our summer international soccer preview shows. We're hopefully going to do one for basically every tournament, especially, Chelsea Mike, Brian, Rob, Coach Matt, whoever. I'm probably going to peg you guys to do an Olympics preview, especially for the women. And then we'll do a Copa America preview. We're going to have a Euro preview, and as well as all the other upcoming transfer market sagas and all the fun that we get to have speculating about how well or how bad our teams are going to do in the 2024-2025 club season. So for Bayern / Germany / Peru / USA Rob, Chelsea Mike, Professor Matt, Coach G, and Coach Bolivian Matt, I am Stead. This has been another episode of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Hopefully, we'll get our esteemed host back next week. And all the best to you, Mike. And we will see you all next week. So for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, I'm Stead. We did all right this week. We will do better next week.